Tarot is not good for yes/no questions. When you come to the cards and you ask things like, will this happen to me? Or should I do this? You're putting yourself in a disempowered situation. And tarot is more powerful than that. You are more powerful than that. There is no certain future. We have no control over what's going to happen to us, but sometimes we feel like we need that. And we want that certainty in order to move forward. So even though I don't think it's a great idea to come to tarot with yes/no questions, I still do it sometimes. And I have a technique that I use that has been very effective for me and for the people I read for, and I wanted to share it with you today. And I'm also going to share some of the tools I use that are not tarot that help me do yes/no readings. When my mind is spinning or I'm feeling scared to move forward and I'm kind of searching for that certainty, I do sometimes come to my cards with a yes/no question. And the thing is, though, that I don't believe that a beautiful stack of cardboard is telling me about the future. It's not telling me that thing will happen or won't. My reaction to that answer is the most important part of all of this. My reaction, and then what I do about that reaction, is empowering. The yes or the no is actually just a gateway into a much more empowering reading that really helps us decide what we're going to do about it and how we're going to build a life we want to live. My main motivation here is that I don't want the cards telling me what to do or telling you what to do. I want them empowering us to make decisions for ourselves. So instead of giving our decisions away to a stack of paper, we're going to make a decision for ourselves to build a future for ourselves. So the way I do this is when I sit down to do my reading, when I'm asking my yes or no, I put myself into the position that I'm going to just listen to it and I'm going to believe it. And then I'm going to imagine a life where that is the truth. So let's say I go to the cards and I ask, will I get the promotion? And the answer is yes. Now, the thing to pay attention to is not that yes. It's to pay attention to my reaction to the yes. So maybe I'm happy, but I get this sudden sense of stress, like a real physical response of stress. Now that is important information. So what am I stressed about? What can I do about that? That's where the tarot comes in. It starts to answer that question for you about that stress and what you want and what you're trying to build in your life and what you can handle right now. Once you have your reaction to that yes or no, now the tarot comes in. Tarot can give you insight into why you reacted that way. It can help you make a plan for the future. It can help you make decisions that you maybe didn't feel like you could make before. Ideally, we come to the tarot with open-ended questions. Things like, what is stopping me from making this decision? Why do I feel so scared? How can I feel more confident moving forward? But sometimes we just cannot get to that point. We've got to sort of break the seal and get into the reading with that yes or no. Let me show you some of the tools I use for my yes or no, and then I'll show you how I bring tarot in to help with them, and we'll do a couple example readings. When I have a yes/no question that needs an answer, I generally turn to something other than tarot, though I will talk to you about how you can use tarot for yes/no questions. My favorite things to use are pendulums, quarters or other coins, game pieces that have two different colors, and playing cards. Pendulums are made for yes/no questions. They work great. And let me just remind you too that a pendulum is anything that is a weight on the end of a string. You don't have to go buy some special tool for this. You can use a necklace with a ring on the end of it, or just a pendant necklace that you already own. You don't have to get something special. But pendulums are wonderful because you essentially get them started. You find out which way means yes, which way means no, and then you ask your question. I like to use these game pieces. These are from an Othello game that I played with growing up. So they are full of energy for me. They mean a lot. And so I use either 3 or 4, and I use quarters or these sorts of game pieces. And you basically decide, like, heads is yes, white is yes, tails is no, black is no, right? You decide, you assign it, and then you do casting. Now, I like to do 3 or 4 instead of just 1, because then you can get a little more nuance. But if you are truly spinning, like the times where I'm like really struggling and I want a definite yes or no, then I will do a single one and just get a yes or no. Instead of something like if I cast this and it's like, oh, maybe yes, you know? So these are some of my favorite things to do. They're quick and easy and you just cast them on your table. And then for playing cards, I do a similar thing to the game pieces where I assign a color to yes and a color to no. And then I just use them like I'm drawing tarot cards. However you normally draw tarot, however you decide, whether it's jumpers or cutting the deck, or the way I do it, I lay them out and then I run my hand over it until one is calling to me. And let's say I assigned yes to red, then there's my answer. And similarly with the game pieces or the quarters, you can pull, you know, more than one card. And here we would have a likely yes. You could also use dice. I don't have any down here. I don't usually do this, but you would assign like odd numbers are yes, evens are no, something like that, and throw the dice. You might also consider something like taking a piece of paper and drawing 2 circles on it. One is yes, one is no, and then you cast something across it, like beads or seeds or something, and then whichever one has more in it, that's your yes or that's your no. There are so many things you can do to get to the yes or to get to the no. If you decide to use tarot, I would suggest doing something like evens and odd numbers, right? So maybe evens are no and odds are yes. You could also pick a suit that is a yes and a suit that's a no. You could also just go on the general vibe of the card, like Emperor, yes. Strength, yes. King of Swords, yes. Let me find one that would be, if you get like this, I would say no for 7 of Swords, right? So there's a lot of ways you can use tarot, but for me, tarot is a more expansive answer than just a yes or a no. And that's why I like to turn to things like coins, playing cards, pendulums, etc. for the yes or the no. Let me do a couple examples of how I like to do these readings. Let's use playing cards for a yes or a no. We'll do red is yes, black is no. And the question is, should I contact my ex? All right. As I said before, you just maybe use it the way you would normally draw cards for tarot, and we get a yes. Okay. The yes really doesn't matter. The yes is not the most important thing here. My reaction to that yes is the most important thing. Now, if I feel happy about that, if that fills me with a sense of joy, now I've got some insight I can go on. And I pull out my tarot and I could ask something like, why am I afraid to do it? What is stopping me from already contacting him? Like, why haven't I already contacted him? I could ask, what do I need to do to prepare myself for contacting him again? So let's ask that. Like, we're exes for a reason, right? So maybe let's ask what needs to change for it to be worth it to contact my ex. So before I contact them, or what would I look for? You know, what would be a better situation? I've got Page of Wands. Interesting. So if I need to change something about the situation, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I gave up too much of myself in the past relationship. So I need to work on my confidence. I need to be more in tune with myself. Okay, now I would do a much longer reading than this. This is very short and not very in-depth for the purposes of this video. But I hope you're getting the idea here that it's the response. So let's see what happens if I do another one. Let's do Will I Get the Job? And we will do the game pieces this time. Will I get the job? Likely no. I got 2 no's and a yes. So I likely will not get the job. Okay, now that I have that answer, now I turn to my tarot. I will likely not get the job. Let's say I feel some relief, surprisingly. I feel relieved about that. And I'm glad to hear that I'm not going to get this job, which apparently I've been working for. And so it's kind of a surprise that I'm relieved. There's my insight. That's what we're going to do a reading on. So let's start thinking about why I'm relieved and what I could do instead. Okay, so now I found out I'm relieved about not getting this job. Why am I relieved? Two of Pentacles. There are other opportunities available to me, and I was not drawn to this one. So what if I ask, what else is a better, like, what else should I be doing? No, that's a should. I don't like shoulds. What if we ask, what other opportunities are available to me that I haven't noticed, right? I was so busy worrying about that other job. Oh my gosh. So maybe going into business for myself is a possibility. And I hadn't even thought of that before. Maybe I was relieved to hear I wouldn't get this other job because I'm sick of working for other people. So the key here to remember is whatever the coins or the cards or the pendulum says, you've got to put yourself in the position of accepting that answer. Pretend you have given up your, ability to change things, that is a certain future for you. You've got to put yourself in the position of that being the answer. And with that insight, you can move forward and get so much more information from the tarot. Doing that helps you get past your logical brain. It gets past some of your shoulds that you put on yourself. It gets past overthinking. It gets past expectations from other people. So you really do need to pretend that this is a certain future that these coins or this pendulum just told you. And that is that. That is my technique for doing yes/no questions with tarot, and how to turn an inherently disempowering question into something very empowering to help you make great decisions for yourself in your life. Like if you liked this video, subscribe for more tarot content, and thanks for stopping by.